together. IPSA. We're not just a name in a directory. Local minds with national synergy.
Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome to the all-new IPSA IPSA Kind of Magic, with, of course, Hamish McClary of South Convey, who is the current chairman. But we have today with us the luminescence, the incandescent Heather Orglede, current chief exec of said organ. Welcome to the show, Heather.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. Now, look, this is an interesting thing, is it not, that we're talking about today? We're talking about women in conveyancing. And the interesting thing is, because I've done a little bit of research behind the scenes, there is a preponderance of feminine folk within IPSA anyway, and within the conveyancing industry. Has it always been female-centred, Heather?
No, it hasn't always been female-centred. It has become more so over the recent 10, 15 years. But what you do find is it's not representative in that it's very, there's a huge percentage of women working in conveyancing, but the people at the top are predominantly men. So that's something we've got to get changed, isn't it?
Well, look, I believe in not equality of output or results, but equality of opportunity. Yes. And I think, and we were interesting, Hamish, were we not talking about this very topic with our esteemed friend Michelle yesterday, who is a QS, about rectifying the imbalance of the female representation within construction?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the great things, and we had a very interesting conversation afterwards, Michelle and I, because I was asking her how she saw the way going, and what it is there. She was speaking about tradespeople, particularly in construction. That's very, very short of women, but they are growing. The numbers are going, but it has actually been found out that, in actual fact, the number of women who are becoming quantity surveyors and the like are increasing, and the reason for it is that perceptive brain, the you know, of the female mind that us males don't seem to be able to have. The balancing of so many aspects. And I think in actual fact, I mean, Heather's quite right. It would be good to see more women sort of taking the lead in conveyancing itself. And certainly they're doing so, because we're not just speaking about women in conveyancing today. One of the great aspects of what we do, obviously, with our sort of work as the independent property search agents, we work very closely with conveyancers. And of course, much of that work is conveyancing, but very often, as Heather said, it won't necessarily be because the larger organizations, they tend to be sort of male-led. But what we're speaking about today, and this is a very, very important one, hopefully the boys will get a look in later on. I have something up my sleeve for that, but for the time being, there's some really hard work going on at this weekend, isn't there, Heather?
Yes, there is. So the organisation Women in Conveyancing, which I've only recently joined, are putting on a charity hike at Snowdon on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And I believe there are around 60 people taking part, and it's not all women there, and it's not all conveyancers either. It's open to families and friends, and I know there are mortgage advisors, and there are other people related to property and not related to property are taking part. But the reason we're doing it is to raise funds for a charity called Mind Over Mountains. And the idea of that charity is that it helps people who are struggling with their mental health or other issues to be outside in the fresh air, getting vitamin D, and it accesses them to counsellors and mental health practitioners that are trained to deal with all sorts of situations, but in the safe space, which is our great outdoors. So
I mean, we're talking again about women in conveyancing, women in searching, and so on. Have you noticed, Heather, in the time that you had your tenure at IPSA, that there's been I don't know, is it more women folk really becoming involved? And what would you think the reason for that is?
I wouldn't necessarily say there's more women getting involved. I think it's always been more women than men in our membership, looking back over the years. And I think one of the reasons for that is that running a search firm offers, certainly from a small search firm, offers a lot of flexibility in working hours. So it's been very suitable for women returning to work after having children, for example, or for women that are caring for their parents or that kind of thing. So it's been more suitable to women than it has been to men. I mean, there's nothing to say that men aren't great at it, because they are. It's one of those industries where it's been a useful, flexible way of people getting back into work. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say we have more women now than we did before, but yes, when we look at the new members coming in, it's the same sort of ratio. We get more women than men.
I don't want to illustrate my ignorance here, but is there an attitude of mind more prevalent in general with women that makes them better searchers?
I couldn't possibly comment on that.
All right. Well then, hang on. Someone who would make me more able to comment. Hamish, what do you think?
Well, yes. I mean, when we speak about it, I mean, I have within my organisation. Do you like that organisation? No,
I love that.
Within my team, I do. It basically is all female support. I'm the only sort of a male around, which has its disadvantages. However, there are other aspects, because they really, as a team, they're actually quite significant. And when I actually sort of look at, I mean, particularly two of them, the two main ones that feature within the searches themselves, it's both Shelley and Paul, who've been with me for a long, long time now. They do really look at significant sort of depth into things far deeper than I remember I ever looked when I was focusing an awful lot more on searches. So there is that depth, and it is looking that much further afield that they can actually. And when I look at the records or speak to Shelley about the records she keeps relative to searches that she's actually worked on, and if you like, the information that's obtained from counsel, she knows exactly who to speak to and all the rest. And I would have to think, it didn't stay in my brain, but Shelley will actually sort of know it. And the same too with Paula. So there does seem to be a slightly different way of it actually happening, which is a benefit, of course, to our clients.
Well, of course it is.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, a lot of that obviously is when you're doing it all the time, which obviously Paula and Shelley are doing it all the time, so that information is there. If you're not dealing, if there's anything that I don't deal with as often as I used to, then my researcher, who also is my husband, who is a man, he does that side of it and very well too, but he would know where to find that more than I would now, because that's something I don't deal with very often. So yeah.
But when we were talking, Hamish and I were talking to Michelle Carr yesterday. What she said was one of the reasons why she is so good at multitasking is because she's been a mother of twins, which means that she's got to know where that bit is and how that bit is and who to go to for this, and at the same time spin that plate and rub that tummy, etc., etc. So would you say that mothers are particularly good at this sort of thing, because they have to know where everything is going to make
I
things
should
work?
really careful how I answer this. I think involved parents that are involved, male or female, that are very involved in the upbringing of their children, do have to wear many hats and have to have various aspects. But you can't put it down to male versus female. It's down to how those people have worked and what they've done. It's parenting, not mothering.
I tell you what, Heather, have you thought about a career in politics?
Diplomacy is what I'm looking towards, to be honest.
Very nicely said. Hamish, in the short time that I've been involved, albeit on the periphery, with IPSA, I've noticed there is a kind of person within the IPSA person appears to be slightly different from other people. I mean, I can characterize it, but I think you can too.
Well, to me, the is the integration, and I think when we actually speak about this, and this is one of the coins. I mean, probably Heather's husband's within hearing distance or something.
Yes, he is.
Good man, good man. He is an excellent person.
No wonder she's being so political about the whole thing. Now I can understand, but it is that balance that's it's sort of clearly very, very important. And if we can actually sort of work that balance, and it doesn't matter what it's to do with, it's to do with family. I mean, we've got this sort of scenario at the moment. We don't quite. I mean, if we wanted to look into politics, for example, we don't have sufficient of the women's mind, the feminine mind, in major aspect of sort of politics. If we had those leading certain countries, it would be a significant difference. But certain countries won't allow females to actually sort of reach that sort of pinnacle, which is a bit unfortunate. But it's the balance that counts. And we enjoy the balance. And I think, to me, that's what does make the whole thing. It's a team effort. And IPSA members themselves, when you actually speak to them, it's the enthusiasm we speak to. Funnily enough, it's as Heather sort of says, what's actually sort of what we're finding sort of moving in. We've got, I think, is it three new members we've got at the moment? We've got on the periphery over there.
Yeah. Yes.
And I think that was a 2-to-1 ratio, wasn't it? The female side was 2-to-1. But I think there was another one coming on as well. But however, what I've actually sort of found on balance, and probably Heather would say the same, when we're working with solicitors, if you're working with a team of solicitors, when you get that nice balance, it's always much, much easier to work with and satisfy their particular sort of needs. And it doesn't matter whether it's a male or a female at the top there, providing you've got that the aspect of being able to speak with those who are working on the shop floor, because they understand more effectively the balance of what independent search agents can actually offer to them as solicitors, which brings together, I mean, it's quite an interesting. I was hoping we could get a few more. Certainly, I was trying to nudge a few of my team along to see if somebody wanted to sort of step up Snowdon. It's not something I could do any longer, although I did it accidentally many years ago. Oh, yes, and took our little puppy dog with us. The dog took about 4 days to recover, but it was an amusing scenario. I didn't really know anything about it. And when we actually reached the summit nearly, we got around the corner and there were hundreds of people there. And they'd all gone up in the train. But Heather's not doing that at the weekend, nor the other team. But we've also got another IPSA member there. We've got Martello are being supported there.
Yeah, Jess is coming.
Yeah, Jess from Martello.
Oh, wonderful.
Joining in.
Yes. And Jess's husband is coming along as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, look at that support. So that's working, not only working together, but walking together.
Yeah.
So just one syllable difference. All right. So it seems to me, Heather, that what makes an IPSA member, female or male, is a willingness to collaborate and not to see everyone else in the organization as competition, but more as an almost. Forgive me, it sounds a bit slushy, this, but a bit more like in a big extended family in a way.
Yeah, it is. But the other thing, that there's a really important quality that successful search agents have, and that is the quality of not accepting what you see as being the truth. So you need to look at something and think, now, does that make sense? Should there be something else there? Why doesn't, if this is here, why isn't that there? And looking further rather than just reporting what's there. You need to make sure that it's correct. And if you haven't got, if you're willing to accept what's presented without matching it and cross-referencing it and digging deeper, then that's not a successful search agent. You need that inquiring mind and that willingness to go the extra mile and dig deeper, and that's what makes a successful search agent.
So search agent, private investigator, they are sort of a bit of a crossover there. Absolutely. So Hamish McClay, PI.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Hamish, how are we going to attract more of the same in 2026 to join or to at least approach IPSA with a view to perhaps becoming part of the firmament?
Well, the thing is, we always welcome the new people, and it's one of those difficult things because it's a challenging time when we look at the property industry at the moment to see which way it was going. And I was looking at a large estate agency earlier today, some comments and things they were a little bit concerned about exactly from their perspective how many properties were going onto the market.
Right.
But of course, the thing is, there's so many different aspects to it. It's not just those new properties sort of coming onto the market because the developers are finding it a little bit sort of scary. But there's also people looking further into the future. What's AI doing? Now, AI is tremendous and does tremendous things. It cannot, as Heather just pointed out, it cannot really look. It can't act as a true PI.
No.
We won't find a sort of Magnum in there, or a Sherlock Holmes or something like that, through AI. Sadly, they cannot achieve quite the same level of depth. It is that human sort of development into the whole process or the human involvement, which can actually sort of look at and say, oh, that's not quite right. AI might be able to do some of that, but I just know the depths of, if you like, my team and any of the people that we work with in IPSA,
Right.
the lengths that they go to get that information. And of course, we're living in a society at the moment can you believe what people tell you? Some of it is accidental in terms of the emissions, but I mean, some of it is purposeful. You need to be more politically minded, I think, to be that.
That my meat and veg is all to do with what's going on at LinkedIn any one moment, but it's quite interesting. I took a straw poll on there yesterday, as well as doing some further research. 70 to 80% of anything that anybody states on LinkedIn is disbelieved in the first instance. So that tells me, and I see that as almost a reflection of everything in many ways. If people state things in the past, there was a time, I think in the 80s, people would say a thing and immediately people jump on it. I want to do that because they've said it. Now we're at the stage as somebody says, oh, you must act on this immediately and do that. People will either ignore it completely or want to question further before they take any action. And I think that's where we're at. In the midst of all that, I still see IPSA as a beacon of hope because really you guys stand for quiet inquisition to try and find the best information so people can make the right choice. Have I missed the target there?
No, that's exactly it. Absolutely.
Okay. And I think long may it continue. I see a whole bunch of people have come in. I'm just going to quickly because I see the numbers flickering up and down. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're just finishing up the IPSA or IPSA kind of magic broadcast that we do weekly. There are 4 property shows that we do weekly. Property Matters on a Tuesday, IPSA kind of magic on a Wednesday. Of course, the bun fight that is Property Quorum on a Thursday, and we finish off with arguably our most viewed show, which is Cladding Matters on a Friday. Please, if you want to see any of those, particularly any of the IPSA ones, because we've discussed a lot of topics in there, please go and look at the channel on YouTube, which is called Spilling the Proper Tea. TEA, Spilling the Property. Please go and have a look and do catch up because we do cover all sorts of topics. But before we go, Hamish, would you care to take us home?
Well, I mean, what I was going to say, don't any of you forget that mind over mountains, does some tremendous work, because there are people who suffer, and certainly within conveyancing. It's not just in conveyancing. Speak to Michelle about what goes on in construction. So there's a lot goes on. There's a lot of pressure that people work under. And the trouble is, people accept that pressure. They just take on the work. They're conscientious about what they do. However, that stress can actually build up. And there are an awful lot of people in many other areas. But we are speaking about conveyancing today. So get in there, that mind over mountains. Have a little look at it. And there's certainly plenty of room for more people to walk up sort of Snowdon. And it's a lovely walk. At least it was 50 years ago. Not so sure about it now.
Well, I don't think the tectonic plates have shifted much in that time. Thank you so much, very much, Heather, for taking time out your precious day and of spending time with us. Heather is one of the people who will, if you're interested in either being associated or becoming part of it, so she'll be one of the people you'll need to speak to. Hamish being one of the others, Hamish McClay, current chairman of IPSA IPSA. And as somebody said to me yesterday, Gareth, don't ever make a decision without trying to walk a mile in your client's shoes. Of course, by that time, you'll be 1 mile away from them and had their shoes. Anyway, moving on. Until next week, please keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and in these troubled times, please try and look after your mental health. Bye-bye now.
Ooh, local skill, national connection. Ooh, independent, but never alone. Ooh, IPSA, where your professional home.